would say definitely go. It's well worth the experience. It is difficult, and you need to be careful what pupils you take with you, I think. And we took a really good group who were into 5th year, but then they just finished their 5th year, and that was probably the ideal age. And I think it's good for the pupils to see it, and it's good for them to see that level of poverty and work with underprivileged children as well. And I think it's good for them then to come back and to share that, because I say for a few years we were sending out money, and yeah, you can send out money, but it's until you see it firsthand just how bad it is and how difficult the lives of these wee boys are that it's worth experiencing. I think you need to give yourself plenty of time. It's not something you can rush into, and obviously in the current economic climate as well, you know, fundraising is a huge issue, or if the pupils are paying all or a big chunk of it themselves, then there has to be a good length of time, 18 months, as I said. So I think you probably need at least that, if not maybe even 2.5 years. But I have to say the time flew in, and before you knew it, from the first initial meeting to over there was no time at all. Now we've been back 9 months, and it's just flown in. So leave yourself plenty of time. Be very organised in terms of the fundraising and getting the whole school involved, because 1 or 2 people can't do it all. It's too big a job, and you really need to rely on lots of different people to help and support it, and make sure the pupils know what they're getting themselves into, because you know, you're not just going a wee skiing trip up north or whatever here, you're going to the other side of the world, and once you're there and that's it. And to be fair, I think our pupils realised that, and we had one pupil who was a wee bit homesick at the beginning, but otherwise they took it on board. And it is hard work, and it's not a holiday. And when you're working for 3, 4, 5 days at altitude, making bricks and so on, then it is a hard shift. But the sense of satisfaction you get from it is fantastic.
Well, I think the first thing I would say is they have to get the whole picture. I don't think it's any good telling them this is wonderful and here are all the positive. They've got to get the whole picture, and they've got to realise that it was a challenging experience as far as living accommodation was concerned. It was challenging hearing the stories of what these young boys had experienced. So there were a lot of things there that you are having to deal with. But I would say to everybody, to experience something like that one time in your life is just amazing. And I would say that the benefits far outweigh any negative things that they would ever experience in a trip like that.
That it certainly wasn't a nice, relaxing little holiday, that they were going to be very much responsible on a 24/7 basis for people. But bearing that in mind, I would do it again, and I would certainly encourage anybody to go for it.
I think different life experiences and like different cultures, it can only enhance your understanding of who people are and what society is about if you go and actually kind of immerse yourself in them. So most definitely a brilliant idea.
It was difficult, and don't get me wrong, I did lose a few nights sleep over it, particularly at the beginning when we were organising events and the amount of work it was involved, because that was probably the major amount of work, was the fundraising, and it wasn't easy. But I think the key to it was we had a great team of staff.
The whole process very much being more than 2 weeks away in Peru, it was over a year in the preparation. It was 2 weeks away there. It's still going on as we have had our information given evenings to various people.
I would say the thing about the fundraising, involve everybody. Because if the young people have ownership of all the fundraising, they're much more likely to help, and then it's a bigger circle, they'll get more people involved.
So if anybody is organising a trip like this, it's important to be really well organised, to prepare different charity events, anything you're going to do well in advance, and have a big team behind you to try and help allow that to happen, because you're not going to do it with 3 or 4 people. It takes a whole school initiative to get that funding available to take the trip in the first place. That's the biggest thing, organise well in advance.
working with the Vine Trust was very positive, because you were always just at the end of an email or a phone call, and you know, if there was anything that we wanted to know, the answer was always, if I don't know, I'll find out for you and I'll get straight back to you, and that's what happened. It is a wee bit tricky, as I said earlier as well, about when you're organising a trip, you don't know how much it's going to cost, you don't know how much you're going to fundraise, how much you're going to subsidise the cost of the trip. So it is a bit of a leap of faith, if you like, particularly with parents. We did have a parents' information evening, and all the parents that turned up, I think just about every one of them, you know, that their child went on the trip. But it is a big commitment, and there is a huge amount of trust involved for the parents to trust the members of staff that are taking their young people to the other side of the world, for the head teacher and the local authority to allow the school to go, and so on. But it's just a unique experience, and it's well worth it.
I think it's kind of difficult to actually make the jump from being, you know, their English teacher or their reg teacher or whatever, and all of a sudden you're in a completely different country and you're in a completely different role. It took the kids a wee while to adjust to thinking, you know, that's a real person that's standing there. And I think the change over the 2 weeks was massive, from, you know, Miss Curry to she's marking my higher essays to Rose, I feel really homesick, can I have a hug?
Make sure the kids you take are kids who are going to work, and they're going to listen to what you tell them to do, and they're not going to be too emotional. I think you have to take a particularly strong personality of people with you. As I say, all the pupils we had, one girl was homesick for a couple of days early on, but after that, they worked, they grafted, they worked with the kids, they left their inhibitions behind them, they didn't bother about makeup, how well they looked, how badly they looked. So the kids you take are probably the most important thing, I would say, to make sure you take good kids with you.
I think as part of the group, you are ultimately responsible for the kids, but at the same time, you're one of the group. So you have this kind of duality in that, well, it wasn't really an issue with any of our kids, because, you know, none of them were daft enough to do anything stupid or dangerous, etc. But you have to ultimately remember that you're an adult, and the things that they don't think of, you have to think of for them. Like, please don't put your cutlery in your rucksack, and please don't pat the police dog, and don't leave your luggage over there unattended, all those kind of things that, you know, they've never been anywhere like that, and your experience has to kick in at that point, and you have to kind of corral them along and say, right, it's not what we do. But apart from that, you're one of them. You muck in. Make sure you get them home to their parents safely.
Well, I think there's no doubt about it. It's like, as far as their personal development's concerned, it's like they are these people, but it's peeling away the layers of the onion to get them to understand who they are. And they had to deal with so many things, positive and challenging experiences they had when they were away. I'm sure every single one of them had to reevaluate who they were, and sort of what they wanted and what was important to them. The other thing is, I'm sure they, as I do, it's like giving them a much, much bigger picture in life of poverty and helping people and the challenges that the street boys had to face. And I would be, and I know that some of them have said this as well, much more likely to help in the future, whereas before I wasn't. And I know that they're the same, because lack of confidence. How can I help? What can I do? What can I actually do to help? But they all now have gone through the whole experience, from the fundraising to the experience to being in an incredible country as well. So, I mean, the benefits are just absolutely enormous. Enormous.
You maybe hear other members of staff saying, oh, you're away that trip, you're away a holiday, you know, that type of thing. And when you come back, it's certainly not a trip as such, it's not a holiday, it's an adventure, if you like, and there are low points, but I think some of the other pupils have said that, you know, you all work together and you all get through it, but certainly the travelling was difficult. It was difficult. The flight over was difficult, 12 and a half hours over, and then you're straight on a bus and, you know, to your first centre.
Be prepared to travel long and hard, be very dirty, very tired, very grumpy, and still smile. And enjoy it. Embrace like all the different things that you're going to see, because you might never ever see them again. You might never meet these people or be in a situation like that again, but you have to take everything you can away from it and just treat it as a fabulous experience, and take a journal. and write it down, because you forget things from the day before. I think sharing the kind of like photos and things like that we did as well, like everybody had, we shared all our photos on Facebook, quite a lot of them, and then Donald got hold of a lot as well, and you know, you kind of look at things and you see a different thing in a picture that somebody else doesn't. Somebody else will remember the name of that wee boy, or something that they've been doing 10 minutes beforehand, and I think kind of sharing the experience and telling other people about it is important.